So a little over a year ago, Nintendo released their latest home console called the Wii U. Now, the gaming media has enjoyed crapping on Nintendo a little bit over the past few years, and I can't blame them that much, because I mean, as successful as the Wii U was, it was incredibly underpowered and really unconventional in comparison to its main competitors, the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360. And this generation is, again, Nintendo going for the unconventional and underpowered route, which has resulted in them not being as successful, although, in my opinion, I think it's because Nintendo's marketing department has been doing a really terrible job at advertising the thing. But is it that bad as the gaming media suggests? Well, let's find out. Now, right out of the box, when you get your Wii U, it's either going to be in white if you got the basic model, or black if you got the premium model. Now, the main difference between the two, and the only difference as far as I know aside from colour, is that the basic model has 8GB of storage, meanwhile the premium one has 32GB from storage. I went for premium because of A, storage, and B, I think it looks nicer in black. Like, I like the black and white colour scheme as opposed to the white and light blue colour scheme, which is kind of why I have a black Wii as well. Now, you might think that the storage on these two consoles, which is 8GB for the basic and 32 for the premium, is incredibly small, and it is in comparison to the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, but this console doesn't need that much storage. I mean, unless you're actually downloading a lot of titles to the thing, you don't need lots and lots of gigs of data. However, I would really recommend you get a black one, because if you get the basic white one, after all the updates to the operating system and all that, you'll only have 1 or 2 gigs of space left to save game data onto, and that really does limit you. However, you can get like an SD card to put into the front there, or you can use one of the 4 USB ports that the thing has to use an external hard drive with the actual thing. So if you are worried about space, there are ways of improving it, but if you don't want to have to worry about space at all really, unless you're downloading every game that's for sale, get one of these. So yeah, you should be fine with that. And before it gets heated in the comments, I just want to say, yes, the Wii U is incredibly underpowered and like inferior to the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One in every single way in terms of hardware capability. So before you get into that in the comments, I know, so don't start a massive flame war about it in the comments. But in fairness, to balance it out, it's also actually the cheapest console out of the 3, so it might be worth your time to look into it. But anyway, the Wii U itself is actually surprisingly heavy for its small size, although still smaller and lighter than the Xbox One and PlayStation 4. It's kind of nice really, it can support both wireless and wired internet, although if you're using wired you're going to need one of these, which is a USB to Ethernet adapter. It doesn't have an Ethernet port even though it supports wired internet, but the adapters are actually pretty cheap and pretty easy to get hold of, so I'd recommend you look into that sort of thing. Now, to connect it to your TV, you can either use the HDMI cable that came with the Wii U to get 720 or 1080p or 1080i, which is pretty nice. It looks really great in some games actually, so even though it doesn't line up with the PlayStation 4 or the Xbox One in any capability sense, it still looks pretty impressive depending on what games you're playing. And another thing you can actually do, which I think they should have advertised really, is if you don't have a HD TV without like an HDMI port, you can actually just take the wires straight from a Wii and plug them into the back of the console, and you can hook that up to your TV as well, so you don't have to worry about having a HD TV or a HDMI port on your TV, and it just runs like that. You will only get 480p with these though, but at the same time, using the composite leads from your Wii is pretty nice, because odds are if you're getting a Wii U, you probably have a Wii lying around somewhere, even if you're not actively using it. it's probably lying around somewhere, so you can just take the leads from that and you should be fine. Now, along with the Wii U, you also get the Wii U Gamepad. Now, this I thought initially was going to be way too like bulky and stuff to be able to actually play efficiently with, but it actually fits pretty nicely into your hands like this, so I don't know, it's pretty well fitting, and it's actually really nice and light, and like I've got people who've played with this and they've actually got like small hands and they've not struggled with it at all, so it's actually not a lot nicer than it actually looks, like, believe me on this. And what it basically is basically your traditional like gamepad button layout. Like, you've got your 2 analog sticks, D-pad is actually a really nice D-pad as well, and you know, A, B, X and Y, and yeah, it's actually really nice layout for the thing, and it's just got this screen in the middle here that will display a lot of various content in your games. And like when I told one of my friends that I had a Wii U, one of their first questions is, okay, what do you use the gamepad for? And well, it's kind of hard to explain because the gamepad is actually, like, as well as being like a display screen for various stuff in the game, it's also a touchscreen. Yeah. The gamepad also contains an accelerometer and a gyroscope, so we can do motion controls with it. It also contains speakers at the bottom. It also contains a volume slider at the top with a headphone jack, and it also can be used as a TV remote, as you can see from this button here. And it's got ports planned for extension and accessories. It's got a built-in rechargeable battery. It's got a rumble feature. It's got a microphone in it. It's got a camera in it. It's basically like a Swiss Army knife of controllers. So it's a pretty well equipped device and you can do a lot with it. And I'm really excited to see what developers do actually end up doing with it. Like, there's a lot of games already that take advantage of it in various different ways, but I'm really looking forward to see what people can do with it, because I think in the right creative mindset, this could be a really fun tool to use and make a really unique experience for the Wii U. And in some of the games I've played, it has been already. So yeah, I think it's actually a really nice, interesting console. My main problem with it, however, is that its battery life is pretty terrible. With like your settings and stuff turned down, like the rumble turned off, the screen brightness turned down, and all that jazz, you can crank out 5 hours at most, and at the worst I've seen it perform, it's about 3.5 hours. So that kind of sucks. And what really does hurt it is the fact that, yes, it's got a rechargeable battery pack, but there's no way to buy like another battery pack to slap in the back there. So like when you're done with this, you can pop out the battery pack, put the other one in, and then let the other battery pack recharge. There's no way to do that. And you can't buy a gamepad like on its own, which means that you can't like just swap out gamepad for gamepad. So when you're playing a session, the gamepad dies halfway through, swap out for another one. You can't do that because unless you own another Wii U, you don't own another gamepad. Which I found a little bit weird because I remember there being like plans to connect like 2 gamepads to your Wii U at once, so I don't know what's going on with that. I'm expecting that to be something that comes into play in the future of the console, but it's not really there yet. And it kind of hurts it really, but I like the gamepad as a whole. It's perfectly fine and functional, and yes, I can play with it plugged into the charger, but at the same time that's going to kill your battery over time. So yeah, that's my one gripe with this, in that I can't play for long sessions with it. However, if you're in that position as well and you want something that you can play with for a long time with your Wii U, what I highly suggest you look into is getting one of these, which is a Wii U Pro controller. It's basically got just a like typical traditional button layout. It's basically a Nintendo version of the Xbox 360 controller, which I have no problem with whatsoever. The 360 controller is my personal favourite controller, really, for any console ever. So I'm fine with Nintendo doing something like this, and it's pretty nice. It doesn't have a lot of the features of the Wii U Pro controller. Like, it still has a rumble feature, but that's standard for these controllers, and but a lot of games do support this in some way, and you can have a look at the back of your game boxes to make sure that they can support it. But it's just a nice controller overall, really. And the main draw about it really is the fact that its battery life compared to the Wii U Gamepad is insane. Like, the Wii U Gamepad, like I said, at most 5 hours. This gets 80. 80 hours is... like the Gamepad, it's got a rechargeable battery pack that you can't remove. But I'm not going to have an issue with this. Like, I'm not going to have a straight 80-hour session. Once I'm done with my session, I can just plug this in, let it recharge, and then by the time I come back for another session, it's fully done, so I can just play for another however many hours I'm going to be busy. So, yeah, it's perfectly fine. I will say though, what I have here is a fake controller, and it's actually very convincing fake, because if I put like this here and then an actual version like right next to it, you'll see it's actually a very good fake. So like, even down to the packaging that came in, like, this looks like legit packaging stuff. I'm in contact with the company that sold it me online, and I should be getting a response soon. It should be valid for returns and all that jazz. But you might not be as fortunate, so I want you to be on the lookout for stuff like this. And like, my main problem with this controller, because like, if it didn't have any issues, I would be fine with keeping it, but it's like this button here, the power button, which is basically, you press that and your Wii U turns on, that doesn't work. So I was just going to return it for that anyway, but then I didn't notice this. But on the back, like, I'm pretty sure you can make that out there, that doesn't say Nintendo, that says Nintendo. So yeah, and apparently some people say you can tell by the fact that it's got a silver screw instead of a black screwdriver, and I don't know if that's true, but if that is, that's another thing you can look out for. But yeah, I think the Nintendo thing is probably going to be your main giveaway. Like I said, it's actually a very good fake, but I'm going to be seeing if I can get like some sort of return on that, because I don't want to know if it'll like break down in the future, but I at least want one as a functioning power button. So yeah, other than that, I like this. It's very nice. It's got like the triggers and stuff that your typical Xbox 360 controller would have. And it's nice. My main gripe with it, other than the fact mine's a fake, is the fact that it just feels a little bit too light, which is one of the problems I had with the PS3 controller. But, it's actually perfectly fine, and you don't notice that once you start playing with it, you'll get used to it. But it just feels a little too light and floppy at the moment, so yeah. By the way, if it didn't make it clear, you do not get the Pro Controller with the actual console. So yeah, you're going to have to invest into that separately if you want one. But please be careful when you purchase one online, okay? So in addition to the console and the gamepad, you also get some like stands to go on the bottom of the console to make it stand vertically, which is nice, and I prefer my console standing vertically. You also get this, which is a charging cradle for the gamepad. And strangely, this, which is a stand for your gamepad, but if you have the charging cradle, why would you put it in a stand on its own? You could just stand it in here and it's just going to charge, so I don't know, it's a little odd, it's kind of pointless. You also get this, which is a Wii Sensor Bar. And you might be thinking, why am I getting that? Well, it's because the Wii U actually has a lot of support for the Wii controllers and nunchucks and all that jazz, so don't throw them out just yet. They're actually highly supported with the Wii U, and I find it really weird that they are so much, and yet like I wouldn't get this with my Wii U. Like, if it's so highly supported by so many games on the system, like, why wouldn't you give me one with the actual console? It just seems weird, and some games actually require you to have a Wii remote to actually use some of their features, so it's weird to not actually provide one with the console, because that means, oh no, you can play the single player elements, or you can play some of the game but not these parts unless you've already purchased a Wii remote and nunchuck. So yeah, keep hold of that stuff. If you are going to get a Wii U, they don't provide you with more. And also I guess it means that if you do have some Wii stuff, it's still getting some use out of it, so you don't have to worry about buying all new controllers and stuff for the console, because any of the old Wii controllers still connect to the Wii U, so perfectly fine. But hardware isn't all the console is made of. Wait. So let's look at some of the software that actually came with the Wii U. So what's the first thing you should do with your new console? Make yourself, of course! Now, the Miis on the Wii U are back and better than ever with the Wii U's Mii Maker channel, which has more features and settings to choose from and play around with than on any of the previous Mii making channels and stuff. And you can even use the camera on the Wii U Gamepad to take a picture of yourself, and the Wii U will generate a Mii based on that. Is it accurate? I'll let you decide that for yourself. And even though they do provide photo recognition, you can still change your Mii in various ways if you aren't happy with it. So if you think the Wii U Gamepad photo feature is completely off, then you can create your own Mii from scratch, or you can just touch up what the Wii U kind of provided, even if it isn't a good template to start with. And yes, you can still make yourself Squidward if you really, really want to. For some reason there's this weird quirk with the Wii U that it won't let you play as your Mii unless you've highlighted it as a favourite from the list, which is pretty easy to set out. You just gotta tap on it and then hit favourites, but just remember to do that when you're making a Mii of yourself, otherwise you won't be able to play as yourself. I have to say though, I still find the Miis to be lacking in a few ways in comparison to, say, the 360's avatars, which are in my opinion still superior as a representation on a gaming console, because there's just so much more customizability to them. So like, why do our Miis only have the ability to wear a shirt in one like block colour, when you could like have them as clothes for unlockables in games, or if you really, really had to, buyable clothes as DLC? But I wouldn't buy it. But I'm still saying that we should lobby the clothes unlock idea for Miis as a good idea, because as you'll see, the Miis are now a representation of people online all the time in the Wii U. But other than the customizability factor, I think it's a perfectly fine and serviceable channel, and you can still create Miis of people that you want to, so yeah, why not? Now with your created Mii, you have a persona to represent you on Nintendo's new online community called MeVerse. MeVerse is kind of a weird amalgamation of several different social networking sites, and it's arranged into communities that are dedicated to like particular games or apps, kind of like Facebook fan pages, on which people can post short messages with a limited amount of characters like Twitter, and they can be commented on or yared, although some reason you can't reply back to comments or tag people in posts, so if you wanted to have a sort of conversation on there, it'd be kind of difficult to actually sort of pull off. People can also draw their own images or post images from the games that they're playing, kind of like Instagram, but the comparison is not quite as apt this time around, admittedly. And you can set different communities to your favourites so you can quickly access them all, which I think is a pretty nice feature. If you only play certain games and you only want to see posts from certain games, you can put them games in your favourite communities and just quickly flick through them at your leisure. So I think that's pretty nice of it. You can also follow certain users on there, which is pretty much every social networking site ever nowadays. And you can see all their posts like clubbed together into an activity feed, which you can access on your MeVerse menu. So if you just want to see posts from particular people, you can do that too. And only their posts will show in the activity feed. MeVerse also allows you to quickly send friend requests to people on there, which actually removes the need for friend codes as it was on like the 3DS and the Wii U, which is great because now you don't have to send like a 12 or 16 digit or whatever amount of digit number it is to each other, and you don't have to register each other like that. You can just send a request and accept it. I just can't believe it's taken them that long to actually do something like this. My only problem with this is that there's a friend limit cap of only 100 people, which kind of sucks, but I'm still very glad that they actually removed friend code requirements, so yeah, that's pretty nice and easy. And at this point I want to take a quick moment to mention the friend list. I wouldn't normally mention it because it's essentially what you'd expect from a friends list on a console. But some people have blocked the ability to be added via MeVerse. However, if you know their username, you can just search for it in the friends list and it will send a friend request to them. So yeah, as long as you know their username, you can still send a friend request. It doesn't matter whether they have the friend request function on or off in MeVerse. I think this is probably a bug in the system that Nintendo really needs to get on and fix. But of course, since you won't be added to the friends list unless they accept, it's not that big an issue, I guess. But it could probably get annoying considering you told MeVerse I don't want friend requests, and then through this you get friend requests. So also through the friends list you can add anybody who you've previously played with online, which is a pretty nice feature, but considering there's really still a lack of like communication via microphone and stuff online, you can't really communicate with other players, so it'd be weird if you were just befriending people in this manner, but I don't know, it's kind of a nice feature, I guess. But anyway, back to MeVerse. Now, the MeVerse service is integrated into an awful lot of titles, and I guess the main point of which is to help other players with messages and advice. But let's just say the quality of a lot of MeVerse posts is questionable. But in fairness, the service is pretty well policed to protect people from the horrors of spoilers. Oh, and swearing and hate speech and all that junk. Overall, it's an okay service, I guess, but it won't be like my main social media platform, but it's perfectly serviceable. And who knows, you might even find love on there.
Comment if you need a girlfriend!
So on top of all that, when you turn on your Wii U, you're greeted by the Wara Wara Plaza. Or as I like to call it, the MeVerse Plaza. This plaza displays 10 communities and random posts from them popping up, as well as anyone you follow occasionally turning up here. The plaza is perfectly fine except for one thing. You don't choose the 10 communities. Nintendo does. And it's pretty much whatever they want to like promote at the time. And to be honest, I really wish they'd change it so that I could choose my 10 communities, or my 10 communities were just chosen at random from any of my favourite communities. Because I don't care about like the Wii U Fit Club or the Wii Sports Club or whatever you're flogging on there that has a recommended thing around it. So I really don't care about those sort of features popping up. I want to know about the communities I'm a part of, the communities that are games that I actually play, what services I actually use, so yeah. Although it's still kind of fun just to mash the 2 button and watch the Miis run around. And now to quickly take out 5 of the Wii U's channels in a row. Wii U Chat. It's like Skype, but for just Wii U users with other Wii U users, and just people on your friends list. I'm sticking with Skype. Daily Log. And the point of this is parental controls. Perfectly functional and great if you want to protect both your kids and your wallet. Just make sure your kids don't work out your PIN number. Nintendo TV! Oh? Oh. Health and safety info, because putting warnings about photosensitive epilepsy on something that could give someone an epileptic seizure is a great idea. Moving on to some of the more practical free features on the Wii U, the internet browser. It's actually surprisingly good for a console browser. It's got like an integrated search function for either Google or Yahoo, and you can have multiple tabs open, and you can hide the TV screen whilst you just want to browse on the gamepad. Although I'm not really sure why you'd want to do this, well, other than the only really quirky thing about the actual system is that the Wii U is sometimes perceived as like a mobile device by some websites such as Facebook, but it's still fully functional with them. So it's pretty quick and it's perfectly fine. Some websites treat it differently to how you might expect, but for a console browser they could have done a whole lot worse, so I'd say it's pretty nice and you can use it as you please. Now, another of the system's internet-based services is the Nintendo eShop, which is this system's method of selling downloadable titles directly to you. Now, this shop uses money instead of the Wii's old system of buying Wii points and then buying what you wanted, which I prefer because having the Wii points thing is just sort of having a weird middleman in the middle of things in what I bought Wii points and then I will buy a title with Wii points rather than just buying a title with my money. So I prefer it this way. Now, the service works perfectly fine, but I feel like in some aspects it's a bit of a downgrade from the Wii shopping channel, such as one of the best things about the actual Wii was that the virtual console library on it was so vast and massive. There were literally hundreds of titles you could download from there, and on this you've got the NES and the Super Nintendo, and that's it really. No Sega consoles, no Neo Geo, nothing like that. You've just got the NES and the SNES. Now, apparently there are plans to add Nintendo 64, GameCube, and even DS games onto here, but it really makes me wonder what's taking them so long to actually do this. Now, another thing I remember seeing on the Wii was that the highest price was, I believe, about 1,500 Wii points to buy a game, but on here, and yeah, I get it, these are full titles rather than like WiiWare, Xbox Live Arcade, that sort of deal, sort of budget titles from indie developers. But still, if I can find your title for, say, half, even maybe a third of that price, still in packaging at my local game store, and I can buy it new from my local game store for that cheaper price, why would I want to download it directly from the eShop? Like, you've got to give me a really, really good reason to actually buy it from the eShop rather than going down to my game store. And I don't see it here. I mean, yeah, it will load slightly faster than playing from disc, but if I can buy it for half the money, I don't mind. So, yeah. See, another problem I have with the Wii U is that the eShop seems to take longer to download than the Wii Shop channel did. And I know some of you are going to say, oh, that's just because they're bigger titles, but it's not that, because I've downloaded a couple of virtual console titles and they seem to take a lot longer than like their Wii Shop channel equivalents are, and I'm not really sure what the problem is with that. Maybe there's some extra stuff going on behind the scenes that weren't going on with the shop channel. I don't know, but it just seems to be something that occurs to me, and maybe I'm making it up, but I think it's noticeable and I think it's worth bringing up. However, there are a lot of positives to the eShop too, such as the fact they've added the ability to put reviews on titles that you've played, albeit very limited ones. But hey, sometimes all people want from a review is to put a number on the end of things, and people will decide to buy a game entirely based off that. But I mean, the reviews do something right in the fact that you're not allowed to review a game until you've spent a certain amount of time on the actual game. So you don't just have people coming to the shop claiming that they've played that game and ranking a game as either 1-star or 5-star depending on what kind of bias they're working with. So I think that's a good thing, to be honest. Another thing that they've added to the shop, which I think helps improve it a lot, is that sometimes titles will go on sale, which I think is really great. And in my time of owning my Wii U, which is just over a month or so, I've seen the amount of sales be pretty decent. I've seen 2 major sets of sales where 10 various games went on sale, and it really varies game by game how much they get reduced. I've seen it go down to 80% off for a game, so they can be really beneficial to you. Unfortunately, at the time I was recording the footage, there was only 1 title for sale, but I promise you, it does happen more often than you'd think, but not quite as often as a Steam sale. And if you already won't like a game, they have actually started to add demos and trailers to a lot of the games on the eShop. However, I think it should be something that's made compulsory to all the titles in the eShop rather than just a select few games actually providing one. And I think it would really help people to be more satisfied with their purchase because they've had a chance to play the game beforehand, and I don't think there'd be as many 1-star entries on Wii U titles. But I guess if they did, that would be me out of the reviewing job already, and I barely started, so yeah. And finally there's the watchlist function, which means if you spot something in the store that you want and you don't have the funds for it, or you don't want to buy it just yet for whatever reason, you can just hit watchlist and it gets added to the list. You've got a nice little checklist of all games that you want to purchase, and it's great because it just means that you can keep an eye on everything. If something goes on sale, you can just quickly tab to that and you'll see it's on sale, buy it then. Or if you just want a checklist of games that you want for your Wii U, there it is, you've got it. You can eventually buy certain games as you go through. You don't even have to buy it on the store, you can just buy it from the cheaper local game store like I plan on doing for some titles. And then when you come back to your watch list, you'll just remove it from the watch list there and bam, done, nice and easy. And as we're rounding up the eShop, I think now is a good time to mention the download management app. This is a nice simple little app that queues up your purchases, updates and downloads and installs them in the order you've bought them or the order that the updates were released. However, it also lets you prioritise downloads, so put certain downloads first if that's what you want, and it will tell you how much time is remaining for every update or every download and what process it's going through, if it's installing it, if it's downloading it, whatever. It's a very nice, simple app, and I just think it's nice that they added that because it lets you download multiple stuff at once, opposed to the Wii Shop channels just one at a time, have to wait until this download's done and that's it. Now for the only app that you actually have to download to your Wii U that I'll be looking at in this video, the YouTube app. I'm including it here because it's a completely free application and odds are you're gonna want it on your Wii U because hey, you're watching this on YouTube anyway, so I'm assuming you're a pretty frequent YouTube user. Now, it's an okay app, it streams video perfectly fine, but it feels pretty bare bones to me. You can log in and view all your subscriptions and watch videos through the Gamepad or on the TV at your own leisure, which is nice, but you can't comment or like a video, nor can you actually subscribe to someone who you aren't already, which kind of sucks. And if you're not using the Wii U to view this video, look at all the features you can use below, including that subscribe button. And yes, I know, before people bring it up, you can download the Netflix app and a Love Film app to your Wii U, and I'm sure they work perfectly fine as well, but I can't afford to pay the subscription fee, so I can't review them and I can't tell you whether they're good or not. However, I'm sure you can look at the reviews on here and they'd give you a rough idea of how good or bad they might be. And finally, let's end this look at the new console with a look back at Nintendo's previous console via the Wii Menu app. Now you can access this app either through the Wii U menu or by holding down the B button on the gamepad when the Wii U is starting up, and it launches into this backwards compatibility mode. Now I think this Wii menu is actually a really great form of backwards compatibility because you can play your Wii games on it, you can transfer across any titles that you downloaded to your Wii through the Wii transfer tool, which is great because it means all your stuff that you spent money on, it's not going to waste, it goes straight to your Wii U, it's perfectly fine. all except for one title, unfortunately. And it just means that the Wii U's backwards compatibility technically stretches through everything, including the titles that aren't included on the Wii U's Nintendo eShop. You can actually access the eShop channel via the Wii Menu, which means you can download stuff like your Mega Drive games, / Genesis if you're in America, or Master System games, or Neo Geo, or TurboGrafx, or whatever. You can download it through that. I think that's a great idea. However, any extra titles that you might be able to download through the Wii channels section, such as one of my personal favourite apps to use, the BBC iPlayer app, you can't access them. So yeah, that kind of sucks, but if you have a Wii already that you want to transfer channels over from, you can just use the Wii for that sort of stuff anyway. So yeah, kind of sucks, but it's easily workaroundable. One thing I will say is it kind of sucks that there are no GameCube controller ports on the Wii U as it is, because Nintendo 64 titles, which are some of the better titles you could have downloaded through the Wii Shop channel in my opinion, they kind of don't control that well with the classic controller, I found. And the only way I did enjoy playing Nintendo 64 games was via the GameCube controller. So I recommend you get one of these. I don't own one myself, but they've been recommended to me. Apparently they work well, but they are third party only, so make of that what you will. I'm holding out until Nintendo gives me a GameCube adapter in some way for my Wii U to transfer over Nintendo 64 titles, but until then, I'll just play them on my Wii, so it's perfectly fine by me. And like I said, I think this is going to be the best backwards compatibility we're getting this generation. I know the PS4 and Xbox One both have compatibility in some way or another this generation, but I think the Wii U does it best in it's directly transferring everything you've purchased from the Wii, and then you've just got it on your Wii U, and that's fine. I think that's a great idea. So yeah, points to Nintendo for that, I think. So that's the end of my look at the Wii U, and what do I think of it overall? Well, despite my gripes about a lot of things, some of them that you could definitely put down to just being nitpicks, I actually really like the console and I'd actually recommend it to people. I think there's a lot of good software that's going to be coming out for it, particularly this year, but I can understand why people have been kind of cautious of it from its release up to this point, because quite simply it hasn't been well marketed and there haven't been a lot of stellar third-party titles for the actual thing. But I think it's actually a really nice piece of tech overall, even though it is kind of small and underpowered. I think the Gamepad has a lot of potential and I really hope the developers take hold of it and run with it, because there is a lot on there and I've already seen a lot that can really show what the console can actually do and why it doesn't matter that it's underpowered compared to other consoles. I think that this could do something really great, but it just depends how developers want to work with it. And developers don't really like uniqueness a lot of the time. They like having modularity. They like being able to transfer one of the consoles code to another without too much difficulty. And from what I understand, actually coding for the Wii U's architecture is a lot different from coding for the PlayStation 4 or for the Xbox One. So yeah, like I said earlier, I recommend you looking to getting a premium console if you're planning on getting one at all. And the 2014 lineup is looking pretty great to me in terms of first party titles. Now, in addition to actually getting more storage space on a premium membership, you do also get access to a premium service which gives you some cash back on the Nintendo's eStore for a certain amount of time if they're purchased before 31st of December 2014. So bear that in mind. If you want to get into this, you should probably get it before that date to get your money's worth a bit more. So to end this off, I just want to say thank you to everyone for actually watching my first review. Hopefully you've enjoyed it, and I don't normally ask for this, but if you could leave stuff in the comments talking about what you liked and didn't like about this episode so I can sort of structure my reviews better, that would actually be really great. And I want to say again, thank you for actually watching this. Hopefully you've enjoyed it, and next time we'll be looking at Nintendo Land 1 year on.